Reconvene into open session at 6:02 PM. No action was taken while we were in closed session. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Bill, do you have any comments or announcements?
I have none, thank you.
Jessica, do you have any comments or announcements?
No, I don't.
Ms. Sharon, do you have any comments or announcements today?
None at this time.
I don't really have any comments or announcements. Just coming off of vacation. Pamela, do you have any comments?
None for me at this time. Thank you, Madam President.
Good to see you. Spencer, do you have any comments or announcements today?
I just have one, and this is mainly for our families of our students here in Oroville City Elementary School District. I am starting to get emails and calls regarding the new guidance that the CDC and the CDPH have provided the state regarding schools and masking and things of that nature. And I want to let all our families know that I'm currently working with our board, and early next week I will be sending out a communication both online, via email, social media, and via phone with a statement regarding masking and where we're at as a district, and with all the procedures that we will have in place for that. I know that's a hot topic for a lot of people, and we're taking it very seriously, and we'll be giving you a lot of forewarning so you can prepare for the opening of school in the middle of August. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, do you have any comments or announcements?
I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank our maintenance and operations crews who were busy working the summer away in the heat and the smoke, working on some really important projects for our district. So I just wanted to take a second to thank them. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you to the maintenance crew. Miss Kimberly, you always go last. I like you not to make you last today.
Thank you. I just want to let everyone know that I'm very excited about the new school year and looking forward to it. And I think that we're going to have a much better school year this year, and it's going to be a much better year.
Good. Miss Janet.
Good evening. Well, we wrapped up summer school last Friday. It was our last day of summer school, and really kudos to all the staff who work summer school. It was an adventure for everybody, and we paired with BCOE, and they were a wonderful organization to work with. They did our after school program, and the kids had a lot of fun, and they had a lot of neat activities. And then today we sent out a notice for our professional development that's coming up. So before school, we have 3 half days that we are offering to our classified and certificated. And it's optional for them, and it's on student engagement practices. We have one day that is about developing relationships with students and families, and the other one is about bullying. Then we put out our announcement for our first day back by contract, which would be on the 13th. And we have a speaker. We have national speakers that are going to be presenting throughout the day. In the morning, we have an in-person speaker that will be with us that will be talking about trauma. Trauma will be the focus of our presentations. So, and in the afternoon, we have 2 that will be virtual. One will be live, which is the morning speaker. And on that one, we're talking about what does a trauma-informed classroom look like? What do we need to do to prioritize relationships? And how do we de-escalate behavior problems? And so we're excited about it. Can't wait for our speakers to be with us. They are new. Last year, we worked really closely with BCOE, and this year, these are all speakers that are nationally known, but we haven't necessarily had them in our district. So it'll be a nice new perspective for us to be able to look at. And that's it.
Thank you, Janet. Those are excellent topics. At this time, the board would like to extend the invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on matters that are school-related or attending remotely. Please wish to comment, use the raise your hand button to be called on to speak. Comments or questions may also be emailed to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments and questions received will be read into the record and addressed during the meeting. However, comments received without the sender's name will not be shared during the meeting. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes per subject. Do we have any Zoom hands or emails?
I have one email that I've received from a parent, and she has asked that I share this during the comment session today at our board meeting. Hello, Superintendent Holtum. I have 2 children that attend Stanford Elementary School. I know with the past year and a half, things have been difficult dealing with ever-demanding changes due to COVID. I understand and have sympathy for you and the entire staff. With that said, I have more sympathy for all the children and what they have had to deal with. With the start of school coming up shortly, I'm concerned with how our district will be handling the masking mandates. I, as are many, are highly against the continuation of masking the students and feel like the children have been through enough and need to get back to normalcy. If you could please provide parents with an update on what the elementary schools intend to do, it would be much appreciated. I've already sent letters to local representatives to defend our children and demand state officials to drop the mask mandate for students. I do not know where you stand on the situation, but wanted you to be aware that there are a lot of concerned parents that do not want masks in schools. Masks should be a choice, not a requirement. Sincerely, Shauna Rolofson. And that's the only email that I have. And
Do we have any raised hands in the Zoom? Oh, yeah. I have a pattern.
you do, yes. Yes, please.
Push the button.
Push the button, yeah, push the button.
Yep.
Yes.
The red light needs to turn off.
Is it this
Good
button?
job. You did it.
Okay. Okay, my name's Lisa Nitchman, and basically ditto to what you just read. I have grandkids that are in this district, and I'm just really concerned. I see them with their masks, and they're dirty, you know, and I'm going to do the same thing, contact representatives and congressmen and stuff, and just voice my opinion. I just am worried about them. One of the things besides this medical paper that I saw from a medical journal saying about the medical side of it, of them just breathing that air all day. The other part is the emotional part. You know, I have young ones too, young grandkids, and they're missing their social cues of, you know, what kind of expression is my friend making? What kind of expression is my teacher making? You know, so I worry about that too. So between the masks and the vaccinations, I just wanted to say I'm concerned, and I think it should be parents' choices and teachers too. I mean, but just wanted to put my 2 cents in there. So thank you. Do you want me to do something here again? Okay.
Thank you. Christy, were you, yeah.
Hi, my name is Christy Malone. I'm a resource specialist here at the district. And this summer I had the privilege of doing specifically reading intervention, specifically with first grade at the Wyandotte campus for our summer session. And the reason I got that position was because before they were hiring for teaching positions, they put out a call for people who wanted to mitigate learning loss, and they presented a grant opportunity. And I said, well, I can do reading intervention all day, every day, if you pay me. And so I worked with Janet, and we decided the best thing to do is to focus on first grade at Wyandotte. And so that's what we did. And I worked alongside Mrs. Barker and Nicole, the aide, and they did everything they usually do, but I did all the assessments for literacy. And I had a tiered system. The kids were at most at risk and really not doing well. We did Sound Partners, which is a research-backed intervention. And it starts with a few sounds, very much. It works on segmenting, blending, and it's very rote, but it works. And then the next tier, most of the kids were doing Read Live, which is Read Naturally online. And so everyone had, and then the higher ones, we had some kids that were at a 4th grade reading level. So those kids, I'm like, you need to find a chapter book and you're going to bring it in and we're going to talk about it every day. So every one of those kids, and on average, we had about 18 at a time. We talked about what they're reading, or we did one-on-one reading intervention based on their need. And I'm happy to say we did the BPST at the beginning, at the end. Everyone made growth. The kids who were at the most challenged made growth based on the skills. Like if you put a point per skill on that BPST, every one of them made growth. It was a very positive experience. I think all of them felt really special. Another focus I did was I really encouraged them to read at home. And I actually got parents on the phone and I said, they can earn stickers and prizes for every certain amount of nights that they read with you. Can you make sure that happens? I had to get creative with some of them because some parents, work when their kids are at home and they're supposed to be reading, or whatever the family situation is. And so I would just take their word for it. Did you read at home? But I think a lot of them I was hoping that hopefully they came away with a love of reading and knowing that that's important at a 1st grade level, especially given they missed out so much with the pandemic and being at home. And it was such a key age for their development in reading. So I was happy to do that. And it was really positive and we had great outcomes. I wanted to bring a little sticker chart for how many nights they read at home because it was really positive. But Spencer wanted me to share that. So there you go.
Thank you.
I would like to add that I looked at Christy's data when she sent it in after the end of summer school, and all of her kids did make remarkable growth. You could see a big difference in that classroom. So thank you, Christy.
Awesome.
I happened to be at Wyandotte one day and she said, Spencer, I got to show you my data. And she went through that kind of the whole spiel. And I said, you know what? We need to hear good things. Our board needs to hear good things and needs to hear about, some of the positive pieces of summer school and why we did it. And I asked her to come and speak. So thank you so much. This is why, because it didn't matter to all our kids, but it certainly mattered to those kids. So thank you.
Comments? Okay. Good to see you. Do we have any further comments from the public today? Okay. At this time, I would like to extend the invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on items that are listed on the agenda. For those attending remotely who wish to comment, please use the raise your hand button on the Zoom to speak. Comments may also be emailed to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last names in the email. Comments received that pertain to items listed on the agenda will be read into the record at this time. However, comments received without the sender's name cannot be read. The Brown Act does not allow the governing board to discuss or take any action on any item that is not posted on the agenda. Any comments in the email or the Zoom session that are about items on the agenda?
No, we do not.
Do we have anyone in the audience who has any comments on items on the agenda? Okay. Then at this time, I'd like to move on to the consent agenda. Do we have any questions or concerns about the consent agenda at this time?
Madam President, we'd like to make one change to the consent agenda regarding the personnel recommendation piece.
Okay. And what does that change?
We would like to pull Kathleen Clark from the consent agenda personnel recommendation sheet.
Copy that. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with that change?
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda with Kathleen Hurd removed from the personnel recommendations.
Kathleen Clark.
I'm sorry, Kathleen Clark and Hurd. I don't know who that is, but I'm sorry.
Much apologies if we don't mean to move Kathleen Hurd. Do we have a second?
I second.
Because we have Ms. Pamela in distance, we will go ahead and do a roll call vote. Pamela, how do you vote?
Aye.
Sharon, how do you vote? Aye. Jessica, how do you vote? Aye. Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote aye. The motion carries. At this time, I would like to move on to item 9, section A, and approve the early literacy support block grant.
John, thank you.
Turn myself on there. Good evening. It's good to see everybody in person. Some of you for the first time. Seen you on TV, but it's nice to see your faces. I am John Betancourt, principal of Oakdale Heights Elementary School, and I am here to present the ESLB grant, the Early Literacy Support Block Grant, to the board for approval, asking that you approve our action plan that we submitted to you. So, let's see if this works. What power is on? What do I point at?
Let me know if my head's in the way.
I don't know. There we go.
Oh, yes.
All right. So the background of the grant is this is a California Department of Education grant. You can see my beautiful slide up there. And it is being managed through through SCOE, Sac County Office of Ed, in conjunction with Pivot Core, which are two independent nonprofit organizations that specialize in research and teaching. This grant was the result of a lawsuit that Andrew could probably go into a lot more detail on. The state took a ton of money from schools a few years back, and the teachers union, I believe, were the ones who sued the state and won. And the result of that litigation was this grant. This grant is to pay back that money to districts, but they're not paying it back to all the districts. They're paying it back in this grant form. We qualified at Oakdale Heights because our reading scores in 3rd grade were so low. So it's kind of it's a bad thing, but it's a good thing that we're getting this grant if it's approved. In order to qualify for the grant, 75 schools qualified. They were the 75 schools in the state that had the lowest 3rd grade scores on the SBAC test. The focus of the grant is TK through 3rd grade reading. And the amount of the grant, it's a 3-year grant, and the total amount would be $613,140 to support our school in kindergarten through 3rd grade reading. So going through this last year was our planning year, and we had to gather a team to plan and see how we would spend this money if we were to receive the grant. So we gathered a team of Beth Parmentier, our TK kindergarten teacher, Megan Barker, our 1st grade teacher, Cindy King, a 2nd grade teacher, and Molly Euland, a 3rd grade teacher. Janet also joined us at several of the cohort trainings, as well as a representative from Butte County Office of Ed, who also helped walk us down this road. The first step we had to do was to discover the root cause and develop a needs analysis. We attended these trainings and they walked us through looking at our data. And then we also met with our school site council and got input from them to see what our root cause was, what is causing our reading scores to be so low, and what are the needs. That led us to develop our SMART goals, which in turn led us to creating our action plan. And now we are just waiting for acceptance in July. Acceptance can't happen until after we get approval from our local school board in getting your support in our endeavors in raising our reading scores from kindergarten through third grade. And then we will continue working the next 2 years with SCOE Pivot Core to implement and refine and adjust the action plan as the data leads us. So the SMART goals that we developed, our goal 1 is we will improve our instructional knowledge and skill in implementing an explicit systematic foundational skill program, which is Scarborough's reading rope, with fidelity across TK3 classrooms as measured by our professional development calendar, coaching log, and collaborative lessons planning during PLC time by June 2022. Our second SMART goal we developed was we will improve our TK3 collection of valid, predictive, and reliable data by administering and analyzing Illuminate assessments in kindergarten, the BPST, and developing other standards-based benchmarks assessments in first through third data 3 times a year as measured by an assessment calendar, data collection forms, and data conference schedules by June 2022. And our third goal we developed is we will improve intervention focus on phonics by using data to inform instruction and centers as measured by iReady and EL Skills block assessments by June 2022. So those SMART goals led us to these key action steps. Now I've shared with you the complete action plan, but these are the key areas of focus in that plan. Our first area of focus is professional development, and this grant will help us in these areas. So K3, kinder through third grade, and special ed teachers will have the opportunity to participate in CORE's online elementary reading academy. We have 3 teachers signed up to participate starting in September for this year. The principal, myself, will participate in CORE's ELSB Reading Fundamentals Leadership Institute, which is it's a 10 months, there's 10 sessions, and it's about an hour and a half of work a week on top of those sessions. Upon acceptance of our action plan, we will contract with CORE to provide a consultant coach that will work with myself and kinder through third grade teachers to refine reading instruction and coach us on the Wonders curriculum. The second area that we're going to focus on is common assessment, development, and implementation. We will work with the CORE consultant to make sure our assessment system is valid, predictive, and relevant. And then the third area is intervention. We will work with our CORE consultant to evaluate our assessment data and evaluate or develop and implement a tiered intervention plan, which could include purchasing an intervention program to meet student needs. Now, this grant directly impacts or funds K3 at Oakdale reading to improve our reading. Indirectly, it should trickle up. If it works correctly, it will trickle up or domino effect to our upper grades, because as we strengthen our skills in the lower grades, then our upper grade teachers can spend less time doing interventions on students that are missing and filling in those gaps. and can meet the higher needs at their grade levels, which in turn would work into the middle schools. It will also help to be a model for the district so that the district can see what we're doing. The other schools in the district can see what we're doing and kind of model and adapt things that will work for their sites in particular. Any questions? All right, so I am submitting it to the board to be approved, that our action plan be approved, so that I can give that information to the California Department of Education, and then they can move forward with approving the grant for us. And then we can move forward with our contracts and such. Thank you for your time.
On time. I have a motion to approve the early literacy support block grant.
I move that we approve the early literacy support block grant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jessica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Erin, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye. Pamela, how do you vote?
Aye.
The motion carries. Congratulations and thank you for both of your hard work. Give Beth our best. On to new business, section 8. Approve the declaration for fully qualified educators.
Thank you, board. So this declaration is something that we do on an annual basis. The state of California strongly encourages and requires all districts to ensure that we have fully qualified teachers. But in some cases, we have to file for waivers or a declaration to have waivers on an annual basis for different subject matters when needed. Some of this has to do with credentialing, and some of it has to do with other authorizations such as English language learner authorization and things of that nature. I'll give you a quick example of where we're asking for a waiver. We're asking for a waiver for the English language English language learner credential because we have a teacher that we hired from Oregon who is a highly qualified teacher who has a credential, but because Oregon does not have the EL credential built into their program, she has to go out and get that authorization through a program here in California. But that's going to take some time. So she is a fully credentialed teacher, but we're asking for a waiver in this document so that she has a year to complete that education so that she can become California fully credentialed. And we asked for multiple positions or multiple waivers just so that I have the leniency when I'm going out to hire, that I don't have to come back to the board every time. I can just kind of get multiple in this declaration. And then if we ever surpass this amount, I'll come back to you. But I think it's important to note that I rarely exceed or even need some of these declarations. It's just in case, so it allows me to streamline the situation. As I shared with the board earlier, we only have a couple openings certificated right now, and we're hoping to be able to fill those by the time school starts.
Thank you, Spencer. Do we have any questions or concerns regarding this issue?
I want to add that this is authorized by Ed Code, that there are regulations regarding waivers and emergency permits. But I did have a comment or a question on the bilingual authorization. I don't believe we have any bilingual classes at Oroville City Elementary within our district. So I don't think we need bilingual authorizations on here. I don't think it will hurt to have it on there, but maybe for future reference.
Sure. Some districts require what's called the BCLAD. In our district, we do not require the BCLAD, and none of our courses require the BCLAD at this time.
you very much. Anything further? To approve the declaration for fully qualified educators.
I move that we approve the declaration of need.
Second.
A second.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jessica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Sharon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Pamela, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye, the motion carries. At this time, I'd like to also approve the description for a new classified position of educational therapist.
So I'd like to let the board know that I've been working with CSEA on this job description. And this job description is for a educational therapist. And it's something I've talked with the board about specifically the last couple months. We are in desperate need of additional counselors and therapists in our district. We have been flying counseling positions for the school the last couple months, and we actually just hired one for issue last week. This particular position is not a credentialed position, it's a licensed position. And so this person has a master's degree in, or could have a master's degree in social work or MFT, which is marriage and family therapy, or some kind of like position. This particular person, we're looking to work with our what we call our tier 3 kids. Our tier 3 kids are the kids that are our most severe kids that require therapy, and this will allow them to get therapy at school through a licensed professional. This is a job description, and then later in the board, you'll be also approving a pay scale. But I want to let the board know that right now we anticipate that this position will be a 2-year position based on our CARES Act money and ESSER money that we have to mitigate COVID and learning loss and other emotional needs. And after that 2 years, then we will kind of reconvene and discuss it. But that is the nature of this new job description. This is a position we've never had in our district, but we are finally at the point where we need additional support to for our very trauma-based kids.
Thank you, Spencer. Do we have any questions or concerns about this topic? Hearing no questions or concerns of this agendized item, can I have a motion to approve the job description for a new classified position of educational therapist?
I motion that we approve the description.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Pamela, how do you vote?
Aye.
Sharon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jessica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote aye, the motion carries. At this time, I'd like to ask to approve this classified specialty salary schedule for the new educational therapist position.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to let the board know that I did a lot of research in developing this salary schedule. I looked at other districts that have similar positions. I also looked at our local pay rate for MFTs on an hourly basis. In the private practice, they make anywhere from $100 to $250 per hour. And with this position, we've never paid a position that much, but the districts I did look at have very similar salary schedules. This one happens to be a little less, but very close to the salary schedules that I saw from this area districts. We also looked at our current pay schedule of our school psychologists that have very similar degrees, and this is very commensurate with someone who has that type of degree that has a master's degree in school psychology or therapy, things of that nature.
Thank you, Spencer. Any comments or concerns about this topic? Do I have a motion? Go ahead.
I was just going to say this position is going to be a 5.5-hour position, daily position. They'll be working the school day when kids are in session.
And will they be from school to school, or they be?
This particular person who's hired will be moving from school to school based on student need.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the salary schedule for a new educational therapist position.
I move that we approve the specialty salary schedule.
You have a second?
I second.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jessica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Sharon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Pam, how do you vote? I vote aye, the motion carries. At this time, I would like, oh, this is a procedural. I'd like to ask to review the quarterly report of district compliance with Ed Code section Uniform Complaint Procedures, otherwise known as Williams.
I please the board that we have no complaints to review at this time.
Thank you. Have a motion to accept?
No action is
Oh,
necessary.
thank you. On to considering the administration of underage students into the district's transitional kindergarten program.
So a couple of years ago, when we were updating our board policy, we updated a policy regarding transitional kindergarten students. Transitional kindergarten students are students that are 4 years old at the start of school, and if they turn 5 between September 1 and December 2nd, they would be considered TK students. We put a provision in the board policy that allows students who may turn 5 after the December 2nd deadline to apply to the board and go through an assessment and a discussion with either the principal or the assistant sup in charge of curriculum and instruction to assess whether or not they're ready for school or not. We also have a provision in there that if these kids who are not actually TK age, but we allow them to start, they're given a 6-week probationary period to make sure that they're mature enough to be in the class. It's important to note that for those students that are after the December 2nd deadline, let's say they turn 5 in January, we do not start to receive ADA until their 5th birthday. But where this is advantageous for our kids is this gives these kids basically a head start to kindergarten for the next year. And we find it very advantageous for their growth and development. The past couple of years, we've had 1 to 2 students that have taken advantage of this board policy. And we're going to have a couple more this year. So far, I think we have 2 or 3 that are in the process, and 1 here tonight to approve.
Do we have any questions or concerns?
Dr. Holton, has this child been assessed?
Yeah.
And they're ready?
And I met with this student today, and yeah.
Comments or concerns?
I have a concern.
Sure.
I don't know what I'm allowed to disclose from the dates of which the age. So the child's under 4.5.
I don't know the exact date of their birthday at this time.
I do. It's
Yeah.
in the agenda.
Oh,
Okay, if it's in the agenda, then, okay, so this
Record.
child is under 4.5.
mhm.
The child won't be 5 until later in the second half of the school year, which means that the school will not receive ADA except for 2 months out of what are we going on, 10?
At 10 month.
10-month
year.
program. I understand the cushion of September through December and even December 2nd through December 31st. I understand that. Moving on into January, February, March, April, May, and June birthdays, I feel like it's stretching it a little bit, honestly. And what would be preventing less than 4.5-year-old, all 4.5-year-olds to go to TK?
That's a very valid question. First of all, we go through the assessment process.
So then we would assess all 4.5-year-olds.
So we could arguably assess all 4.5. I will also share with you that the state of California is moving in this direction to where they're be offering this and moving back that age requirement past the December 2nd. So that's kind of the direction of the state of California. And we're hoping that with that comes the funding. I will say that we have very few kids that take advantage of this opportunity. And it is very important that we ensure that the kids are ready for this process. And here's another caveat that I think it's important for the board to know is that if we run out of room in that TK classroom, then we will revisit that age because that student will no longer technically have rights to that position. We haven't ran into that issue yet. The current TK class still has several more viable spots, but if we do run into that issue, we'll do one of two things. We'll either give that student family the possibility of going to another TK program that has a spot, or they would just have to wait until the following year to enroll their student. So we're not taking away any other student's spot, but I am an advocate for this because we know the research says that any early intervention that we can give our students helps them out in the long run. And I do realize that we take on a little bit of a financial burden, but for the most part, all those costs that we incur are already fixed costs. We're already paying for the teacher, lighting, and all those things. And so we just want to give our families here in Oroville every opportunity to be successful.
And the student has a higher chance of moving on to our school district next year, and we get that ADA. Did you have a question or concern? Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to basically say the same thing.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Motion to approve considering the admission of an underage student to district's traditional kindergarten program.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request with the prior assessment being done and the child being prepared when the 6-month, for lack of a better term, probationary period, in case there's any issues with the child.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Pam, how do you vote? Karen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jessica, how do you vote?
No.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote aye. The motion carries. At this time, I'd like to ask the board to adopt the revised board policies approved for administrative regulations.
Janet?
So we're almost kind of winding down. We continue to go through our board policies and get them updated and changed. This time we did submit it so that you could see what the recommendations were from either Gamut or from the DOJ as you took a look at these. They kind of vary. We're talking about there's some student success team. We talk about safeguards in this grouping here. A lot of it has to do with services to kids. And it's followed the same format that we've been going in terms of Kim has done a great job of getting recommendations from Gamut. The DOJ looks at it. We read all of their recommendations, and then we have phone calls if there's any questions about it, and then we bring it to you for approval.
Do we have any questions or concerns on any of these revised board policies, administrative regulations? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the presented updated board policies.
Have a second?
I second.
Yes.
Jessica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Sharon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Pam, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye, the motion carries. And on to business and finance. Section 10, I'd like to ask the board to approve the contract with California Consulting Incorporated for grant writing services.
So Spencer and I have written a lot of grants in the last few years. But there's a lot of grant writing to do. We've hired grant writers in the past. This grant writing service stays on the kind of the edge and researches what the grants are, works with us to make sure they're going to be something suitable for our district. And then we can engage them grant by grant to hire them to do this. So we would like it if the board would approve this, so we can go out and pursue some of these grant items that, some grants are really simple and it's a boilerplate. Some grants, they just give you a blank piece of paper and a paragraph and say, good luck. Give me 15 pages. So we're hopeful that this will help us get some of those bigger, harder to accomplish grants that will really serve our district.
And I think it's very important to note that this is not a where we're going to just keep paying them and keep paying them. This is on a grant by grant basis. So we will only use them when there's grants that we really think are going to bring edification and need to our district. Their fees are very reasonable, and the grants that we're going to be asking them to write typically are going to be very, very large and expensive grants that will take extensive amount of time. And this is the largest grant writing company in California. And so they're very cutting edge and very knowledgeable about the ones that are out there. And that's always one of the issues, is always knowing what's available. And they send us weekly updates of grants that are available to us.
I know this might not be a question that's answerable, but what is the success rate?
I'd say in the grants we've written in the say 3 or 4 years, I think we've gotten maybe 25, 33%, something like that, which is pretty good. You got to consider we're a small school district. We are not located in anybody's, there's no state focus on Northern California. There just isn't. So when we have to go compete, we have to really compete. But we've been able to secure some pretty significant grants. The last one we used a grant writer for, I believe, was our tobacco grant, which was a 3-year grant for $600,000. And we rewrote it, kind of using the old template, using the old grant writer's language, and resubmitted it, and we're waiting to hear back. But grant writing is, you never know. You never know. So it's one of those things that it's a good investment to take a shot at a grant, because it can really have a big impact on your school district. And I think it speaks to sort of this administration's focus on fighting for and gathering as much resources for the students of Oroville as we possibly can. And so this is a very aggressive thing to do, and it fits our focus, knowing that we do have to go out and fight and compete. And we're not going to get a lot of grants all the time, but we're going to fight and we're going to do it, and we're still going to get some grants. So,
And this is a good return on investment.
yeah, so you're doing grant by grant, and so you can do a few and see how it works out. Depends on the really depends on the grant. The nice thing about having a professional grant writing service is they're pretty up to speed on what each of the granting agencies wants. Whereas if I'm going to go hire a independent grant writer, they're starting from scratch, has no background with the granting agencies. So this company is able to kind of say, hey, this is something that we think you'd fit. This is a good fit for you, and we could write this and it'd be good. Or they could say, hey, maybe you shouldn't push on this one as much because maybe you're too small of a fish in the pond. So it gives us that perspective. So I think it's money that conceptually, if it works out the way we see it working out, will be money well spent and be a big help for our district.
Additionally, when we've met with them, we've kind of given some of our foci or the focuses that we're working on, specifically safety and facilities. And so right away, they're starting to point out grants that might fit within that range. And we have really no idea all the grants that are out there, just because it requires a lot of time and research. And because this is what they do all day, every day, they know it's available, and they're telling us, hey, you meet the qualifications with your demographics or your size. And so they're really trying to help us kind of pave the way for the grants that we should be writing. And like I said, really helps us to kind of narrow our focus, because we don't want to just throw money at our grant writers. We want to be very strategic.
Okay, and they know that it's part of the business. So the better they're able to pair us up with grants and get us grants we can go and acquire, the happier we'll be with them and the more we'll use them. So that's the business model. So I think it's a good relationship.
I would think it would significantly increase our success rate if we allow a professional grant writing consultant to.
What are you talking
that's
about?
what they do.
Spencer and I do a good job.
You guys are good, but you have to focus on your administration duties.
I take no offense, okay? Because they take an incredibly amount of time.
Right.
And I'm sure we know their acceptance rate is 2 to 3 times higher than ours.
I think what that demonstrates for us is, and I agree with Sharon, is that when you write a grant, we have a tendency as single grant writers to write about ourselves and about what our issues are and things like that. They're not writing that way. They're writing to the grant. They know what the scoring's going to be. They know the highlights you have to hit. So we'll be specifically interviewed about those things, and they'll write to that grant, which will increase our success. This is, I think, a very smart thing to do. And, not only this, but we may want multiple grant writing services, because there are others that do, they each have their own little caveat.
And do we pay them upon the success of a grant?
No.
Or
No, it's usually a flat rate.
You pay them to write it.
Yeah. Each grant we pay a flat rate.
we
About
have
10
any-
grand.
Yeah.
At least that's what we pay them.
Do we have any other questions or concerns on this agenda topic? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
How do you vote? Aye. Jessica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote aye, the motion carries. At this time, I'd like to ask the board to approve a contract with E-Rate Advisors.
For the past, probably since the beginning of E-Rate, Oroville City Elementary School District has used JEG Consulting. The J and the E and the G stood for James E. Galloway. He was our maintenance and facilities director for a lot of years. And he also had a E-Rate consulting business. He never, until he retired, never charged us for it, but he charged everybody else. So he's finally retiring from E-Rate Consulting. And we went out to looking for who is going to be our new E-Rate consultant. And we, with his recommendation, with the recommendation of BCOE, we found Rachel White with E-Rate Advisors. We believe it will do a very good job for us, a very appropriate pairing. E-Rate is a government program where the federal government pays for certain very specific pieces of network infrastructure throughout the district. They pay a percentage of them. And it's ever changing. And there's, it's a very, very, very specific field of knowledge. So having a consultant to handle this is pretty much the standard because it's so far outside of anybody's normal duties in the school district to be that invested in federal reporting and all the different federal guidelines they need for E-rate. So I would ask the board to approve this contract so that when it's E-rate time again, we have a good E-rate advisor on board who will do a good job for us.
Questions or concerns about this topic? May I have a motion to approve?
I motion that we approve the contract with E-rate advisors.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jessica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Sharon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Pam, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye, the motion carries. I have been asked that we table the next two topics, approving playground improvements for East Side School.
We still need to do item C though.
Oh, we do, okay,
Yes, but not D and E
but not D
or E, right?
or E. So this time I'd like to ask the board to
Do the
approve the
MOU.
memorandum of understanding
Dump
with
bids.
Butte County SELPA for playground improvements on East Side School.
So the Butte County SELPA leases East Side School, or the majority of it, for their BASIS program. They would like to put in a new playground in parts. But the Butte County SELPA as an agency really only consists of just a handful of people, and they're special ed people that's their focus. So they asked that we go through the procurement process for them. Also, we have that CUPCA special agreement, so we can take higher bids without having to go to formal bid, where they would have to go to formal bid for something like this playground. So the agreement in the MOU is that we go and hire the playground people to build the playground, and they pay us back. The MOU is in place to ensure that happens. I wanted to make sure we had something in writing and didn't want to do it, as a handshake kind of deal. As far as the other two items, D and E, they have an updated bid, which will be less expensive, that they want to bring in. So I said, let's just pull them and we'll bring them back to the next board meeting. But I would prefer you to approve the MOU with SELPA, saying that they'll pay us for the playground if we pay to put it in.
Do we still own the East Side School and
Yes.
lease to them?
Yes,
Okay.
we lease East Side School to the Butte County SELPA, and we also lease that preschool building that's sort of separated to the Butte County Office of Education for their state preschool that's there.
And any upgrades, they're paying for all the upgrades to the facilities. So this is a very good situation for us.
Yeah, this will be ultimately a $200,000 to $300,000 upgrade to the facility over a couple of years. And they've done a lot of other upgrades that they've paid for, including, upgrading the fencing and doing a lot of things on that site. So they're investing a lot of money into a site that they're leasing. So we just, the more we can support them, the better, because there's no downside for us.
Any other questions or concerns on this topic? Motion to approve the MOU for Butte County SELPA for playground improvements on East Side School.
I make a motion, we approve the MOU with Butte County SELPA.
Second?
I second.
Pam, how do you vote?
Aye.
Karen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jessica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote aye, the motion carries. They're back. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 7:01. Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you, Madam President.